Wall Street veteran Bernard Madoff has been arrested and charged with running a $50 billion Ponzi scheme.
Congress wants to know what caused the Enron meltdown.
Now, while the collective rage currently is focused on WorldCom,
Tyco CEO Dennis Kozlowski was convicted of looting hundreds of millions of dollars.
This is one of the biggest fraud cases ever.
Their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Find out more on this week's episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
Last episode, we introduced the story of Sarma Melngailis, Anthony Strangis, and Pure Food and Wine, the high-end vegan raw food restaurant that gained notoriety and was beloved by celebrities and common folk alike. Pure Food and Wine was an innovative restaurant, and it was taking off. Its fearless leader, Sarma Melngailis, was finally making a profit off of her business that she essentially built from the ground up. Everything was going great until she met a man on Words with Friends who would turn her life upside down. Shane Fox. Or was it Anthony Strangis? Whoever he was. He promised her the hope of immortality and a buyout of her debts. Once the marriage papers were signed, Sarma's life became a living hell as her husband bilked her restaurant for over $1 million. How does the story end? Find out on this week's episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about the immortality thing, about how he said that her and her dog were going to live spiritually with him for all time.
Yep. Welcome back to another episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
I'm Kashan.
And I'm Nina, and today we are going to continue with this crazy story of Sarma and Shane and all of his aliases. And yes, like I said, like we just said, Shane was saying some crazy stuff last episode. You will need to go back and listen to part 1 for part 2 to make sense. But yes, he did promise Sarma that he promised Sarma that he was not a real human, and that if she did everything that he told her to, that she would become immortal like him, and her dog would also become immortal. So she followed along with what he said. This story really is about how love can make you do some really crazy things and believe some really crazy things.
To be fair, Sarma was also saying some really crazy things, like, I'd prefer a diet based on uncooked fruits and vegetables. You know? Just so, and honestly, to me, both of those things, on the scale of crazy, they're about even.
She definitely was extreme in her veganism. I will give you that.
Extreme veganism, yeah.
Listen, there's some vegans that like eat cookies and shit, and I'm not convinced that she would eat a cookie.
Not even a vegan.
She's very
because it's not raw. You have to bake cookies, even if everything in them is vegan. So yeah,
Exactly.
I don't think she would.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's get started. After taking over $1 million from his wife's business, it was said that Anthony, or Shane, I am going to use them a little bit interchangeably throughout the episode based on like what lie he's telling, if that makes sense. So if I'm talking about Anthony, I'm talking about Shane. And if I'm talking about Shane, I'm talking about Anthony. All right. It was said that Anthony was spending lots of time in casinos, sometimes for 30 days straight. He loved to gamble. Sometimes he would play like 3 slot machines at once and don't really know how he was doing that. And he was doing this for 6 to 7 hours at a time. So he really, really loved to gamble. Sarma was getting increasingly frustrated with him and began to demand for her money back because, like we talked about last episode, Anthony, or Shane and Anthony, whatever, kept asking her for more and more and more money, promising her that he would return the money to her, and then he wasn't. In reality, he was gambling it away, but she didn't know that. Unfortunately, Sarma wasn't Anthony/Shane's only victim. Anthony's ex-wife has stories that are similar to Sarma's, saying that when she and Anthony first met, he told her that he was a Navy SEAL who had gotten hurt on duty and was in Florida recuperating. His father even confirmed his stories, so she believed him. He also told his ex-wife that they were reincarnated lovers whose love has gone through time and that they have also loved each other for a lifetime. Where else did we hear him say that?
He just
To Sarma.
He watched like the time travel. I don't even know if this is what the plot is, but it's like he watched the time traveler's wife and was just like, yeah, I'm gonna say something like that. He's like, bitches love the time traveler's wife. I'm gonna do something like that.
Bitches love time travel. No, that's not really the plot of the time traveler's wife, but that's okay.
All right, well, fair enough.
That's okay. You'll watch it. He had also told her that his aunt died and left him $5 million. And during this time, he set his ex-wife up with bank accounts, promising her all this money that was gonna come in, but the money never came. Anthony's ex-wife knew that the relationship went south when she gave birth to their child, and he said to her, "Did you know you can kill a baby by giving it salt and it won't show up on an autopsy?" She said that after that, she never left the baby alone with him. I was like, girl, you need to run. That's crazy.
Hey, fun fact. Did you know that you can cover up infanticide? You're like, whoa. Stop there, actually. I don't want to hear any more about this.
I didn't know that, and I also don't know if it's true, and I'm also not going to Google it.
It's probably not true. I feel like
it doesn't seem true. Why would it be true?
Good question. I don't know. Now, remember, Nina, this is also the person that said, I've met you and we've fallen in love in infinite lives before this. So,
and I can make your dog immortal. So fair. All right. Fair. I mean, listen, though, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Anthony's father was an alcoholic, a gambling addict, and he was also a cop in Massachusetts. And he would help his son run the schemes. I mean, he even went along with those crazy stories about him being a Navy SEAL and all that with his ex-wife when he knew it wasn't the truth. His father also once helped Anthony steal his ex-wife's jewelry and pawn it at a pawn shop before they left for Vegas. So there was a point in time where they stole all of her jewelry, pawned it. They were like, oh, sorry, we'll get it back. And then they went to Vegas instead. So they're both pieces of shit. Their relationship ended when Anthony's father had heart surgery. The two of them were at the hospital when his ex-wife had to leave because her daughter had a baseball game. She had a daughter outside of their marriage who was quite a bit older. Anthony's ex-wife told him not to be late because they were working the concession stand that night. But instead of going to the baseball game, Anthony just up and left and never came back. And his ex-wife had no idea where he had gone or if she would ever see him again. So he just abandoned his ex-wife and baby with no explanation.
So that's not cool. But isn't it also kind of not cool when he's at the hospital with his dad who just had surgery being like, don't be late to the game, we're selling candy bars? That also seems, that's like a little, like he sucks. All of that true about him, but I just want to point out, isn't that kind of weird?
When I saw that, I was like, I think he can sit this one out. Personally,
Bad response. Like, don't just abandon your wife and child because of it. But yeah.
But like, maybe you don't make your husband come to the baseball game after his dad has heart surgery. I don't know, but. Back at Pure Food and Wine, Sarma's presence was fading, and Anthony/Shane's presence was becoming more and more known. Former employees recall Sarma's typical speedy responses, like if someone emailed her or texted her, boom, 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 she was texting them back immediately. But now her responses were becoming more and more drawn out. Servers claim that Shane would call himself the boss's right-hand man and then would tell them to give him the money that they have made and that they would deposit it into the bank. So he was like, yeah, so your tips, you need to give me your tips and then I'll just like put it into the bank. And they were like, that doesn't seem legit. So he's taking over the restaurant. He bought her a one-way ticket to Rome, and she had no idea how long she was going to be in Rome or what the real purpose of her going there even was. Shane told Sarma that her trusting him and going to Rome was a test to prove her loyalty and also prove her that she had trust in him. And since he is a celestial being and not a real human, passing this test would give her all the riches that she could have ever wanted, and her life's purpose would be fulfilled if she just trusted him. He also told her that this trip was intended for her to meet his brother, but in reality, Shane sent her on that trip and sent her away so that she wouldn't question his motives or movements when he was taking over the restaurant.
Man, I feel bad for Sarma because I'm starting to think that maybe all the lights aren't on. Like, how do you believe any of that?
He really, really manipulated her.
Yeah, it's crazy.
To crazy levels. And I don't get too much into how he manipulated her, but there was a lot of tactics that he used that are very synonymous with how cult leaders will brainwash people into joining a cult. He would do a lot of those things. He gaslit her a lot, manipulated her a lot. There was also quite a bit of sexual abuse going on. I don't get too much into it, but it does she really was manipulated in this process. Yeah. Now, Shane would tell employees the vision of Pure Food and Wine and that they were going to continue to grow the business, which I do think that if Sarma had never met Shane, that would have happened. Now, while Sarma is in Rome, Shane tells employees that the company is changing hands and that he will be buying Pure Food and Wine as well as One Lucky Duck. He told employees that this was happening so that they could get out of debt. He promises the employees that everything will be okay, and at the end, everyone is going to make a lot of money. However, the Pure Food and Wine employees had a lot of loyalty to Sarma. They had a history with her, and up until this point, their employment had been positive. And like we said in the last episode, everybody loved working there, and they all felt like family. After this meeting, employees felt upset because they didn't trust a word that came out of Shane's mouth, and they felt like he was lying to their faces, and for good reason. Because when they got married, he had promised her that he was going to get her out of debt and buy the business. Well, he was at least going to get her out of debt. And so his way of convincing everybody that he was going to do this was by purchasing the restaurant. After 10 days in Rome, Shane had decided that Sarma had passed his test and that she could come back to New York. She never met his brother. She had no real reason for going. When she got back from the trip, it was clear to everyone that something was wrong. She wasn't coming into the restaurant, leaving employees running the place by themselves. Her friends were checking up on her because she essentially went MIA. She would tell everyone that she was fine, but she was far from it. It got to the point where she was being secluded from her family. And these are classic signs of abuse, right? When you're in an abusive relationship, your partner will seclude you from your friends and family and make your entire life revolve around your relationship and their messed up reality.
Also another cult leader tactic that you already mentioned.
No,
one of the biggest
100% by seclusion, and you're not really allowed to contact the outside world, stuff like that. Shane was also trying to rope in her family and get them on his side. He was trying to have secret meetings with her father and sister without Sarma present, and they refused. They were like, this is weird. He would be like, I'm worried about Sarma. She needs money. I'm worried about her. Can we just meet? And they were like, we're not meeting with you without Sarma there. He also tried to get Sarma's father to loan him money, saying that it was for the restaurant, and he told her father that he needed to give him the money because they were family. Her father was not buying this, telling him that they were in fact not family because he didn't even know Shane's last name, which, okay, fair. However, Sarma's mother fell for Shane's antics and she did give him money. Now, money was not only being taken from friends and family, but from the restaurant as well. When one employee saw that $90,000 had been wired out of accounts, they alerted Sarma because it was going to be difficult for them to make payroll. When Sarma defended the wire transfer, the employee told her that they felt as though she was stealing money from the company. After some back and forth, the employee was fired. Once that incident occurred, any employee who raised a red flag about what was going on in the restaurant was fired. So, although Sarma, I do think, was greatly manipulated, and I will say this again later, I don't think any of this would have happened if she had not met Shane. The fact that she's firing people for calling her out or calling out Shane's actions does kind of tell me that she knows that he's doing something wrong. That something about this isn't right. Then it didn't become an issue of if the restaurant was going to make payroll. They weren't making payroll at all. At first, it was one missed paycheck. Then it was two missed paychecks. Then the restaurant told them that they were going to start getting paid monthly. Classic red flags. They'd be like, oh, there's routing issues. Oh, the deposits just didn't go through, guys. I don't know what's going on. Oh yeah, by the way, you're going to get paid once a month. Not sketchy at all.
Yeah, get out. Get out at that point for sure.
Yeah. Get out. Once your checks start bouncing, you just should probably go.
Yeah.
You really, really should go. At one point while in Europe, so Anthony and Sarma went to Europe. Sarma emailed employees letting them know that their checks were going to bounce. And when the money hit their accounts, to not spend it because it was going to be pulled right back out. She promised that they would be getting paid next week. That is just insane to be like, oh, hey, by the way, guys, your checks are going to bounce. Don't spend the money.
This happened to me for sure.
I know it happened to you. I'm so sorry.
This is common in the restaurant industry when restaurants are going under. So
yes. Although her employees were going unpaid, Sarma was posting pictures of her lavish European trip on Instagram, bouncing around from city to city, living the good life, all while her employees were struggling to pay their rent because the restaurant had insufficient funds. I would be so pissed.
Yeah, because people followed her on, her employees probably followed her on Instagram.
Oh, well, and this is common in the restaurant industry anyway, right? There's not the normal policies of don't follow coworker, managers don't follow the people under you on social media. That's not really, if you're not somebody who's worked in the industry, that kind of stuff really isn't there. So everybody follows each other on social media usually, especially at this time, because they all started working together in 2012. That was the inception of Instagram. So around this time, we're at 2015, but a lot of social media policies that companies had weren't really put in place yet. So everybody would have been following her and seeing what was going on. And employees were obviously outraged about what was going on. Sarma sent an email to the staff reassuring them that everything was going to be okay, but no one trusted her. The employees walked out, putting up posters outside the restaurant, alerting the public of the problems that was going on behind the scene. So they literally made posters that was late 1 month on pay, all that kind of stuff, and put it up all around the restaurant. Because of this, Pure Food and Wine, alongside One Lucky Duck, temporarily shut down. Sarma didn't even know until she got back from Europe. So that is how out of the loop she is with her own restaurant, that she didn't even know it shut down temporarily. When she got back, she was determined to not let her dream die. She'd worked so hard to make Pure Food and Wine what it was that she wasn't ready to let it close that easily. She poured all of her effort and energy into reopening the restaurant, which she did. She reopened it. She somehow convinced investors to give her $850,000, which she was able to put towards back rent and paying her employees. When she reopened, many employees went back to the restaurant because of their loyalty, not only to Sarma, but to the restaurant itself. And a lot of these employees, like, this is where their career in the industry started. Like, they built a career here. I mean, and you have people who are like executive chefs, stuff managers, stuff like that like jumping, like just quitting and going and getting another executive chef position right away. It's not always realistic. Now, this is what's absolutely crazy. When the restaurant reopened, Sarma did her best to make sure that her name wasn't on the bank accounts so that Shane wasn't able to access the money. So this is how you know that this relationship was so incredibly toxic, because she is willing to be in this relationship even though she knows that the reason her business is tanking is because her husband is siphoning money out of it. You can guess, this move infuriated Shane, and he would do whatever he could to get his hands on money. He went so far as to email investors on Sarma's email without her knowledge. It had gotten to the point where Shane had access to all communication that Sarma had with other people. And there were a couple times that like these investors were getting emails and they were confused because they were like, this is not how Sarma writes emails. This isn't how she talks. But it was because Shane had logged into her email and was trying to get more money out of them. Through all of this, Sarma still owes people a lot of money because, like I said in the first episode, she went into $2 million of debt to buy out the restaurant from her former business partner. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. She meets a man named Michael Caledonia who says he will buy off the investors and purchase the company outright. Now, Sarma specifically owed a man named Jeffrey Chaldro. He had helped her establish the restaurant with her former business partner. She owed him specifically almost $2 million. She calls Jeffrey and tells him that this Michael guy is going to buy the restaurant, and she knows he's legit because she vetted him through Bain Capital. Now, Jeffrey and Michael have a conversation over the phone and talk about him purchasing the restaurant. Michael tells him that he's waiting on some money from some people in Europe, but assures Jeffrey that the money is legit. The two set up a time to meet in New York, but when the day comes, Michael doesn't show. He then says he missed his flight and that they could reschedule the meeting. The only issue was Jeffrey was headed to Miami. So Jeffrey, Michael, and then Sarma tagging along decide to have the meeting in Miami. However, just like last time, Michael mysteriously keeps missing the meetings. Sarma and Jeffrey meet, and she convinces Jeffrey to call the other investors that have invested in her restaurant on her behalf so that they can be bought out for less money than they actually were owed. Jeffrey agrees to do this because he feels like he's doing the right thing. He's like, I've been in business with her all these years. She's my friend. I will do this for her. But he does this even though no papers are signed, and he still hasn't met Michael. Now, who is this Michael guy anyways? How does he have all this money to buy Pure Food and Wine? Well, Michael is Shane Fox.
Oh, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Sarma purposefully lied to one of her biggest investors, someone who supported not only her career financially, but emotionally, so that her husband could pull the wool over everybody's eyes and buy her business. She claims that she didn't think that this mattered to lie to Jeffrey about who was buying the business because everybody was going to get their money anyway. So who cares if it came from Michael Caledonia, Shane Fox, or Anthony Strangis?
Oh, so she was, I didn't even, this whole time, I knew it was him. I didn't know she was in on it.
She knew. She knew about this. Now, I don't really know what the point was to lie to investors. I don't really think anyone really does, because Shane clearly didn't have the money. Shane didn't have the $2 million. And there's no way Sarma couldn't have known that. Like, she knew I really do think that she knew he didn't have that money. When she left Miami, she did not go back to New York. She met Shane in Connecticut, and as they drove through the state, Shane was trying to get her to wire him $50,000. It was at this moment that she says she knew everything was lost. Now, meanwhile, back at Pure Food and Wine, employees had finally had enough. They were done with Sarma, and they were done with the bullshit. They were tired of not being paid. They wanted their money. When people tried to get in contact with Sarma, she ignored their messages. A second walkout was staged, this time with demonstrations in front of the restaurant with yelling and picket signs. The employees of Pure Food and Wine could put up with it no longer. And it's bad enough to just not get paid, right? But one of the employees that I saw being interviewed stated that, like, there were entire families that worked at this restaurant. Mom, dad, and children worked at Pure Food and Wine. So you're not they're all screwed. It's one thing to have one person in the household not have their money. That's enough to put anybody's entire family under, for one person to not get paid. But now you've got 2 people not getting paid, 3 people not getting paid. You're screwing over entire families at this point. Sarma and Shane had left town. No one could get in contact with them. They were now on the run. Now, Sarma says she didn't know they were on the run, even though Shane told her that she needed to cover up her tattoo and to also use a fake name in case anyone asked her what her name was. She chose Emma, Sarma, whatever. They kind of sound the same.
Or she's a Jane Austen fan.
She could be a Jane Austen.
Her next name will be Sense, and middle name and last name Sensibility, because it starts with the same letter as Sarma.
Now, while they were on the run, they bounced around from casino to casino until they ended up in Las Vegas. And the couple stayed in Las Vegas for months. They were in Vegas for like almost 10 months, despite Sarma absolutely hating it because of the lack of healthy food in bookstores. Those were her main complaints about Vegas. Sarma remembers their time in Vegas unfondly, saying that she was mostly on her own while Shane went and played high-stakes slot machines. She says that he was really good at playing them and would win thousands of dollars at a time. But I thought slot machines were purely random and that it didn't really take a whole lot of thought or skill. I thought that, like, you just pushed the button.
No, yeah, you cannot be good at playing slot machines. There are types of slot machines called progressive slot machines that if you know what you're doing, I guess you can like massage them for payouts. That doesn't sound like what he's doing. Slots are like the suckerest thing that you can do at a casino, actually. You will lose the most money by playing slots. That's why I feel bad. I've only been to a couple of casinos, but I feel so bad to see all those old people just pressing that button, and I'm like, you're just throwing your money away.
That's absolutely what they're doing. Did you see that one story where the guy thought he had dementia and he was trying to buy a Dr. Pepper and it was a slot machine and he won like $1 million?
It's like, where's my Dr. Pepper? I can't drink all of these gold coins.
My grandpa has dementia. I was like, we should take grandpa to the casino. My parents were like, he doesn't drink Dr. Pepper. I'm like, tell him it's a beer.
Yeah, I don't think if you align all the stars like you're thinking of doing, that it will happen again. You're like, I need an old man with dementia who loves Dr. Pepper and get him in a casino, and then ergo he must win $1 million.
Yep. While Shane and Sarma were holed up in Vegas, he was poaching her mother for money. Which her mother continued to send to help Sarma. She really believed that she was helping her daughter by sending this money, even though Sarma had no idea where Shane was getting all this money from. I really think at this point, Sarma just stopped asking questions. And if he had money, he had money. And if he didn't, he didn't. But she really did have no idea that this money was coming from her mom. In the end, Sarma's mother ended up sending Shane over $400,000, which was an insane amount of money. However, Shane always needed more and more money. Even after he poached her family, he still needed more. He told Sarma that he needed her to get $60,000. He needed $60,000. I don't know why he needed this amount of money, but she was able to get in contact with a friend in New York who agreed to lend her money. The two hopped back into the car and started their way back to New York City. Once they arrived in New York, Sarma met her friend who gave her cash, and then the two were back on the road, still on the run. They ended up at a motel in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, where they stayed for 40 nights. And at this point, they had been on the run for about 10 months. Here's the thing. This is where I get lucky. This would never happen to me because I don't think I have any friends who just have $60,000 disposable dollars that they could just pull out in cash and give to me.
Yeah, I could not name one person in my life that could do that, but it's the perks of being rich. I mean, she almost married Alec Baldwin.
The better alternative is someone who, what's that called? Involuntary manslaughter.
He was acquitted.
He was acquitted.
So we can't say that because that's defamation. But
he got in trouble. He was on trial.
He was charged and acquitted of something like involuntary manslaughter.
Yes, he was. Now, how were Sarma and Shane able to be on the run for so long? Well, that was because no charges had been filed against them for a really long time. It wasn't until investors had contacted the authorities to tell them that Sarma was missing, along with their money. It was then that an warrant was issued for Sarma and Anthony. The police in New York contacted the police in Tennessee to alert them that they had two fugitives in their state. Now, they were able to catch Sarma and Shane because they had purchased a Domino's pizza and chicken wings with a credit card. So not only did chicken bring down the queen of raw vegan food, but they were dumb enough to use a credit card with their names attached to purchase the food.
Thank God she covered up those tattoos.
Oh my God, thank God. The one tattoo she has, it was covered. They ordered the pizza under the name Anthony Strangis, his legal full government name.
So we just went through that whole thing about making a fake name just for fun, huh? Just as a little game, but let's not use them though.
Also, you met your wife with a fake name. You told your wife your name was Shane Fox when your name was not Shane Fox. But that's not important. What's important is to make sure that you order the Domino's pizza with your real name.
Priorities.
Priorities. The police showed up to the Fairfield Inn where the pizza was delivered and spoke to someone at the front desk. They came up with a plan to get Shane/Anthony to come down to the front desk and discuss an issue with his credit card. And there actually was an issue with his credit card because the last week of the hotel hadn't gone through on the card. When he came down to discuss what was wrong with his credit card, police took him into custody. Officers wade their way up to Sarma's room to arrest her. Now, this was also what was weird, right? They're married. And Sarma was like over him. She was over this shit. They, most of the time that they were on the run, stayed in separate rooms and for sure had separate beds. They were not cohabitating at all. Like, not a little bit. So when he got arrested, she was in a different room than him. When police got to the room, they said that Sarma didn't look like the picture that they had been given. She was extremely skinny and frail. I think that this was a combo of extreme stress and that she wasn't really eating due to the fact that she was having a hard time finding food that she was willing to eat while she was on the run. The Domino's pizza was definitely for Anthony, not for her. While they were in Pigeon Forge, she basically survived off of the most vegan, she survived off of Chipotle bowls that she was able to make vegan.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, she loves raw veganism so much. There's a bunch of plants out by the highway. Feel free. They're free. They cost nothing. They're not cooked. Nothing. They're made out of nothing but plants. Go on, Sarma. Chow down.
Go, girl. When police brought Sarma downstairs, they told her that she could give Anthony a hug and a kiss before they took him away. But when she was told this, she said something along the lines of, "Do I have to?" Officers state when Anthony saw that Sarma wanted nothing to do with him, he told her that she needed to get a lawyer. Which she needed to get a lawyer anyway. Sarma and Anthony were held in jail at Sevier County in Tennessee. Her dad came down all the way from New York to get her dog. My dad would never drive 8+ hours to pick up a dog. Her father also commented that when he saw her, she looked completely unrecognizable. He did say that she had an air of relief about her because the whole thing was over. Sarma was held in Tennessee. Well, Sarma and Anthony were held in Tennessee for 10 days. A fellow inmate described Sarma as quiet, conservative, and kept to herself. She said it was clear to everyone in the jail that she had never been in trouble before. After 10 days in jail, Sarma was told that she was leaving. She packed up her things and headed to the airport, not without picking up Anthony first. And they were in the same car, and then they were put on the same airplane on a flight back to New York. All the while, Anthony reassured Sarma that he was going to make it okay. "I'm not really sure how you're going to make this okay."
I don't think he does.
The two were taken to Rikers Island, where Sarma was able to speak to her family, and she found out how much money her mother had given Anthony. She was devastated. She was at Rikers for a week until her father was able to arrange her bail for $300,000. Anthony's bail was set at $350,000, but he was unfortunately unable to pay it. While in Rikers, the inmates teased her, naturally, and they gave her the nickname Sweet Pussy because they figured that since she was vegan, it would change the flavor of her most sensitive bits.
I don't know if that's true, but okay.
I don't think it's founded in fact. Sarma was charged with grand larceny, criminal tax fraud, conspiracy to defraud, and labor law violations. She was facing up to 15 years in prison. After her arrest, Sarma reached out to the ex-wife who Anthony abandoned in Florida. She wrote a letter on Sarma's behalf on the similar things that Anthony had put her through, because she had a lot of empathy for Sarma and hoped that it would help her with her sentence. She was like, "I don't want another woman to have to go through what I went through with him." Anthony denied ever coercing Sarma in their relationship, but the evidence was stacked against him. Not only did Anthony completely manipulate, gaslight, and mentally torture Sarma, but he had spent over $1 million at casinos, $200,000 at a resort in Connecticut, $80,000 at specialty stores like Rolex, etc., and over $70,000 on hotels, all with her friends, and her family's money. When Anthony pleaded guilty, he was sentenced to time served, which was only a year in Rikers, because he was unable to make that bail. So he spent an entire year in Rikers waiting for his sentencing, and then he just got sentenced to the time he had already served. And then he did have to serve 5 years of probation, but there were no other consequences for his actions, no rehabilitation, no requirement that he seek mental health services. Absolutely nothing was put in place to make sure that he does not do this to someone else, and he is more than likely out there now destroying another woman's life. Sarma took a plea deal and pleaded guilty on all accounts. She said that she did this because it would cost an enormous amount of money to go to trial, and also the fact that she did not want to go through a trial. Sarma was sentenced to 3.5 months in jail and 5 years of probation. She was ordered to pay $1 million in restitution. So she was originally potentially going to go to jail for 15 years. She only had to serve 3.5 months. Like, it was barely 4 months that she served in jail. When everything was said and done, the amount that Anthony had stolen from Sarma and her loved ones was over $6 million. She filed for divorce from Anthony Strangis in 2018. Since she was released from prison, Sarma has written a memoir called The Girl with the Duck Tattoo. She also is a frequent podcast guest and seems to speak at conventions and things like that. There was some article I found that, like, maybe she was, at one point, somebody was trying to help her open another restaurant, but right now it does not appear that she is working at a restaurant at all. From what I can see, she is still in debt. Her life was forever changed by Anthony Strangis, and unfortunately, her dog Leon did pass away in 2024.
Yeah, but I mean, luckily Leon's going to be living on immortally with her. So hopefully that's not that big of a deal. It is going to be weird if they have to stay in different separate rooms in whatever celestial realm that they're in afterwards.
It would be,
you know,
that would be odd.
But, I mean, hey, whatever, I guess.
Right? Deceit, manipulation, and Domino's Pizza. That is what brought down the pure food and wine empire. After Sarma had worked so hard to make her dream restaurant come true, it was all ruined by one man. Anthony Strangis took everything he could from Sarma without a second thought or an ounce of regret. A man fueled by a passion for the finer things and a gambling addiction would stop at nothing to make sure he got his way, even if it meant psychologically warping someone's mind. I truly believe that if Sarma had never met Anthony, none of this would have happened. She wouldn't have defrauded her investors, her employees would have never gone unpaid, and her restaurant would still be running. Strangis completely manipulated Sarma into doing whatever he asked of her, and it's scary that he is walking the streets a free man to this day. Although Sarma was an adult who made her own decisions, there is part of me who does feel bad for her and everything she went through, because without this con man, she would still be a success to this day. And that was our episode. Also, if you are in an abusive relationship, if you or someone you know is in a domestic violence situation, call 1-800-799-7233. Or you can text BEGIN to 788, let me do that again. Text BEGIN to 88788. And that is our episode. If you liked what you heard and you want more, go check us out on social media. We're on Facebook.com/WhiteCollarsRedHands. We are on Twitter at WhiteCollarsPod. We're on X at WhiteCollarsPod. We are on Instagram at WhiteCollars_RedHands. We are on TikTok at, you guessed it, WhiteCollarsRedHands. We're also on YouTube. If you want to listen to the episode and see our beautiful faces, we are on YouTube at White Collars, Red Hands. If you want another ways to support us, please give us, first of all, follow us on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, but you could also leave us a rating. We love a 5-star review, but an honest one, I guess, is fine. Just make it 5 stars. Another way that you can support us is by telling a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to spread the love of podcasts, and we would love it if you spread ours like you spread glitter just everywhere and it doesn't get out of anything. Okay, what's the other thing? Oh, if you want an unfree way to support us, you can do so by buying some merch. You can head over to our website, click the merch tab, it'll take you on over, and you can get a sweater, t-shirt, whatever you want with the White Collars Red Hands logo. If you hear of a white collar crime story and you think that Kashan and I should cover it, please send it our way. You can do that by either DMing us on our socials, or you can email us at whitecollarsredhands@gmail.com. And I think that's it.
Yep, sounds like it to me.
All right. That's it, you guys. We will see you next week on the season 21 finale of White Collars, Red Hands. Oh, wait, no, I fucked it up, man. I don't know what I did.
Red Hands. Let's just call it there.
It was going to be that bad anyway. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, true.